Hey Jacob! Guess what? I don't know all your collective birthdays, so I made the executive decision to claim that you were all born today on the day I post this video. Happy birthday, Jacob! Here's some cake, and just you wait a little bit, cause I got something else. I got a present for you. It's somewhere down here. I found it. Andrew Klavan! What do you think? What? You don't like Andrew Klavan? Well, I don't either, and that's why we're going to talk about him today. Andrew Klavan is our third stop on our excursion into the Daily Wire, and is older than the Earth itself. Man predates the galaxy. No, the universe. Old jokes aside, this is my third video on the Daily Wire, and if you haven't seen the first two, you can check the end card up here, or you can see the description below, where I'll also be posting the sources that I use for this video. Now, without any further ado, let's talk about Andrew Klavan. By the way, I'm really sorry about using your gift as a segue, but we're gonna have fun, right? Andrew Klavan was born in New York City on July 13th, 1954, to a secularist Jewish family. He lived with three brothers and his father, Gene Klavan, who was a New York disc jockey. He was raised on Jewish tradition but did not believe it himself, and became agnostic as such. Later, he converted to Christianity. He went to the University of California, where he met his future wife, Ellen Flanagan. He later dropped out and went to work at a radio station. At this point in his life, he considered himself a liberal. He wrote his first novel in 1977 called The Face of the Earth, and then moved to Putnam County, where he wrote his next novel, Corruption. He later went on to write more supernatural thrillers like the book The Animal Hour. He later went to London, where he wrote True Crime along with two other novels. He later wrote a political novel named Empire of Lies, and now we're at the present. Andrew Klavan is the third attempt to find someone who has more than two brain cells at the Daily Wire. Will we finally succeed? So first off, I just wanted to dedicate a small section of this video to the amazing anime intro he uses on his podcast. Now, I know that trying to compete with intros from shows like Attack on Titan and Demon Slayer is going to be difficult, but please watch with an open mind and an open heart.
I feel hunky-dunky, life is tickety-boo. Birds are winging, also singing hunky-dunky-doo. Ship-shape, tipsy-topsy, the world is zippity-zing. It's a wonderful day, hurrah, hooray! It makes me want to sing. Oh, hurrah, hooray! Oh, hooray, hurrah!
So, clearly, that was the best anime intro ever conceived. None even compare. But in all seriousness, that was so fucking weird and disgusting. The whole animation is just atrocious, both in what it shows and the way that it looks. I think the worst part for me is definitely when the woman that's holding up a sign saying that she is not an object goes into the light and the sign turns into a batch of cookies. Just no. Klavan is really trying to imply that women need to go back to the kitchen. This is a mistake. This honestly looks like if a mentally deficient monkey had a crayon and scribbled on paper trying to follow the commands of Ben Shabibo. Well, anyways, that was the intro, and it's garbage. But what is his actual content like? So next we have his content. Andrew Klavan says that his show is satire and is supposed to be funny. I'm glad that he made this clarification, because if he didn't, I probably wouldn't have noticed. However, let's look at one of his monologues, and tell me what's wrong with it.
The mostly peaceful violence in Portland continues as Joe Biden voters and other Democrats continue to mostly not riot, leaving the city mostly not in flames. The protesters were mostly idealistic young people, except during those few hours when their destructive thugs mostly did not assault unarmed elderly people, leaving most of the local elderly not terrorized or covered in paint. Most of the time, the mobs of usually not rampaging mass marauders were mostly not shining lasers into the eyes of policemen in attempts to blind them, and they could very often be seen not setting local stores on fire as when they were trying to destroy government buildings, which they were mostly not doing either. Around the country, journalists were mostly not reporting on what the mostly peaceful rioters were mostly not doing, and in fact, the journalists themselves spend only about a third of the day at work, and so are mostly not spreading disinformation like hideous bottom-feeding swamp creatures who have somehow evolved the capacity to lie with completely straight faces. unless, of course, they also lie to their friends and families, in which case they're mostly not hideous bottom-feeding swamp creatures, but mostly are, which would mostly not surprise me. For example, the New York Times, a former newspaper, mostly didn't report the mostly peaceful havoc being mostly not wreaked by the mostly peaceful Democrat thugs and other Joe Biden voters in Seattle. But then suddenly, the New York Times did report the mostly peaceful destruction that left most of the city not in shambles. So that many times readers said, whoa, I've been mostly lied to, and I'm now mostly ignorant about what's mostly going on because I've mostly been reading the New York Times and now mostly feel like a schnook. The mostly peaceful riots will mostly not spread into residential areas, so that residents will mostly not be terrorized in their homes. So that's mostly great, unless the person terrorized happens to be you.
There is a lot wrong with this monologue. So he doesn't make fun of any right-wing behavior, only left-wing. This may seem fine, but he never makes fun of anything the right does, only the left. Comedy can't be biased or else it isn't funny. Even SNL, a show that is notoriously left-leaning, makes fun of the left and makes even racist jokes. That's just a minor gripe that I have with the content though. There's also the fact that he messes up his lines and never decides to do a take two, instead leaving in the flubs that ruin the jokes if they were ever even funny. Monologue aside, here's some of the actual serious stuff that his channel has to offer.
The question I get asked most often goes something like this. I am a conservative. I want to write stories with conservative content, fiction with conservative content. Will I be able to find a publisher? Will I be blacklisted? And the answer is
no. The answer is no. You will not be blacklisted for being a conservative. There are conservative writers. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense. Also, why would you want to write a story with conservative content specifically? What is the purpose? Why?
it's going to be tougher. The publishing industry is not as woke as the movie industry. It's not as unified. It's not as much of a block as the movie industry, but it is a left-wing industry, a prominent left-wing industry.
Literally where?
It's a little bit more open-minded because the people who work in the publishing industry tend to be smarter and more literate, so they tend to have more open minds.
Yes, because if you don't agree with conservatism, then you don't have an open mind and you are not literate.
Let's say that you're a thriller writer and you think, I want to write stories like Brad Thor or Vince Flynn, or someone like that, someone who has a conservative bent.
Why do you have to write a story specifically based off of a conservative writer? What does that have to do with anything?
All right, we're talking about the culture, so I wanted to bring on Christian Toto, my friend. He's an award-winning film critic, journalist, and he's the founder of HollywoodInToto.com. If you have not been on Hollywood in Toto, you should go. It is a great movie site, and it's done from the right-wing point of view.
The big problem with Andrew Klavan in these two videos is that he's trying to insert right-wing values into entertainment. And I understand that he might be saying that people insert left-wing values into entertainment, but doing the same thing is just hypocrisy. It's not helping anyone. Like, if I'm gonna go to a film critic site, I don't want to see the critic looking at it from a right-wing point of view. I want to see if the movie is good on a technical point or not.
I mean, the Lena Dunham thing was hilarious to me because she came on and you weren't allowed to say, oh, she's a dumpy, unattractive dame.
Andrew Klavan really does have a beautiful view on women, doesn't he?
You're not even allowed to act. This really bothers me because I love actors and I love watching them work. And I remember watching Daniel Day-Lewis in My Left Foot. He played a guy with cerebral palsy. And there's something magic about watching a guy not afflicted with that transform himself into somebody who is afflicted with it.
I don't think the word magical and cerebral palsy should be in the same sentence in any context.
But now they would say, well, you got to get an actor with cerebral palsy.
So they never actually did anything. You're just saying that they would. Right. Okay, and also, I don't think that this has ever happened. The closest thing is probably when people were saying that gay people in movies should be probably played by gay actors because straight actors are way too flamboyant, but that's a different beast entirely.
But when she was going to play a trans person, it went awry.
For context, they're talking about Scarlett Johansson in this clip. Now, here's the thing. Actors also have to be believable in the role. Scarlett Johansson does not look like she's trans. She looks like she was born biologically female. So that doesn't work.
I think it's complicated. I think the way that the Dave Chappelle situation is playing out now is a great example, because he's arguably the biggest comedian of our time right now, maybe the most talented of our time.
If that Netflix special was anything to go off of, then no, he really isn't.
I mean, comedy, you mentioned Dave Chappelle, and comedy is kind of hardest hit because how can you be funny without being able to be a little bit risque and a little bit naughty?
Yeah, but what would you know about comedy, Mr. Klavan?
I think Louis C.K., who was canceled for bad sexual behavior, as if like no other comedian or celebrity has bad sexual behavior, all of his bad sexual behavior, consensual, by the way.
Oh, I see. Consensual, huh? Well, that's funny, seeing as how this website says that he actually was asking, hey, can I take out my penis? The women laughed it off as they thought he was joking. And then he did it. He took it out and started masturbating. I'm sorry, but laughing isn't consent. That isn't consensual behavior.
Now, I've met some comedians who say that they're bigger now than they were prior to being canceled. Tyler Fisher comes to mind, a very funny fellow.
I feel like I don't want to know what your definition of a very funny fellow is, but because I like hurting myself, I decided to go and see who Tyler Fisher is, and oh my god.
Yeah, hi. Just another message to the mass murderers. Wait, I'm sorry. Oh, I meant the unvaccinated. Ugh, I am sick and tired of hearing about your stupid antibodies. Oh, look at me. I got the antibodies. I don't need the shot. I'm a racist. Shut up. No one cares. Because guess what? Oh, guess what? A massive study just came out of Israel that disproves your stupid flat earther butt. Let's take a look, shall we? So it turns out if you had the antibodies, you have 7 to 13 times the immunity than someone who has had both of the Pfizer shots. So you're safer than... So if you had COVID, then you're safer than me. So if you're near me, then you shouldn't be near me. So you're... But I don't like... You don't think that trans lives matter, is what I'm saying.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
Women seem in some ways hardest hit. You're supposed to pretend that a man can magically become a woman. You're supposed to pretend that women don't want the things that they want, the love and security and home and children that most women actually still do want, though they're sometimes afraid to say so.
One, Andrew Klavan, I don't think you're one to talk about what most women want. I don't think that's your job. Also, no, I don't think a woman would care if someone was trans. I feel like women have bigger problems in their lives.
You're supposed to think all women are strong in the movies. They all walk around with their fists on their hips, and I always think like, God, I would never live with a woman like that.
You heard it here first, everyone. Andrew Klavan hates strong women.
When Ghostbusters came out, the all-female Ghostbusters, the press was just enraptured. You can't not like this movie, otherwise you're a misogynist. And then I think a year later, Wonder Woman came out, which was wonderful and charming and interesting. And Gal Gadot was just spectacular.
I guess we'll have to agree to disagree about Wonder Woman.
And it was funny in Wonder Woman. One of the things that was charming about Wonder Woman was that she was so girly that, when she first saw a baby, she was like, "Ooh, a baby," she was like actually adorable, and it made a big difference.
You heard it here first, guys. Oh, Here's a Baby is now officially female coded. The female gender has claimed it, and it is theirs now. If you or anyone else have said the words, "Oh, here's a baby," then I now diagnose you with woman.
There is now a show coming out of the UK, coming out of Britain, that is among those shows. It's called Line of Duty. It's by a guy named Jed Mercurio. He wrote a show that was very popular here, I think on Netflix, called The Bodyguard. I thought that was okay. This is terrific. Line of Duty is a British police procedural about a made-up anti-corruption squad. And it's about a guy who's in a kind of bad situation where the police accidentally kill an innocent man, and they want him to lie about it, and he won't. So the anti-corruption squad realizes this is an honest man, and they bring him on. And one of the things I like about the show is that it deals with genuine corruption, genuine bureaucracy, genuine indifference, but at the center of it is this guy that we kind of trust and love. And he's got all kinds of flaws and all this, but he is an ethical guy. And it really is an interesting show also because it deals with how political correctness ruins everything.
I fucking can't. Oh my God. This is the same person where if there was a leftist show, he would be screaming in pain and writhing that political values have gotten into television. But no, as soon as it's a conservative thing, a conservative notion, he's okay with it. Amazing.
And that's all right, but it's all true what Dean is saying there, but I will go beyond that. I think what Tom Taylor, the writer, did was small and mean-spirited and disgusting, taking a beloved icon and turning it to his pinched little misguided political purposes that he knows is going to offend people. And yeah.
Superman has almost always been used as a tool for political views. I mean, in his first comic book issue, he's fighting Nazis. Also, you forget that this isn't Clark Kent. This is his son. This isn't the same icon that was around for 50 plus years. This is different.
However, there's another scripture that St. Augustine talks about. It's creation itself. The book of nature is also the word of God. And creation has a pattern and it has a voice. And I'll show you what I mean. I'll show you. Let me see if I can make you understand why what they did to Superman is wicked. It's wrong. It's disgusting. And we all know it, but we can't figure out a way to say it without stepping on the homophobic trap, you know?
You heard it here first, guys. It is apparently such a terrible thing. Horrible. I can't believe it that Superman now likes boys. This is an abhorrent, terrible thing that has happened now. I'm sorry to the world. I'm sorry to comic books. I'm sorry to everyone, but Superman now likes boys.
Man is an animal with two legs, right? He's a featherless biped. That's what Socrates said. That was the definition of mankind, a featherless biped. He has two legs.
I'm very grateful that we cleared that up. Guys, just so you know, man is a featherless biped. We do not have feathers, and we walk on two legs.
Let's say a particular man is born with one leg, right? He's born with only a single leg. Man is still a two-legged animal. Man is still defined as a featherless biped. He is still a two-legged animal. But this man is out of order. There's something disordered about his body. He's crippled. He's handicapped, however you want to say it. Now let's say this one-legged man says, I praise the God who made me, and I'm going to worship him through excellence, and becomes an athlete, right? There's nothing can be done. He's one-legged, so with all the good will in the world, he still can't compete on a major league professional level, but he gets so good that he gets into like handicap Olympics and all kinds of handicap games, and he wins them all. He inspires other people. He inspires other handicapped kids. He's got humility, joyfulness, and praise of God. He inspires them to praise God. He inspires them to rethink their situation. And it's really, he's really a wonderful guy. You ask yourself, is he less or more of a person, of a soul, than an egotistical punk athlete who was born with all the gifts and who struts around in the end zone when he makes a touchdown and thumps his chest and mocks the other players and all that stuff? Who is the better man? Who is the better man? Obviously, it's the one-legged man, and the one-legged man is more of a man.
Okay, so two things here. By your own definition that you used, a man is a bipedal creature, which means that it is on two legs. If a man is born with one leg, by your own definition, he is less than a man. Also, yeah, duh, saying that the one-legged man is a better person than the pro athlete because he's not a dick is self-explanatory. I don't think we needed an entire fucking analogy for that.
Like I said, even if a man is born with one leg, man is a two-legged creature. Even if a man is born homosexual, man is a heterosexual creature.
Wait. Why are you introducing all these new variables? Socrates only said that a man is a featherless bipedal creature, so where does this fit into that, pal?
And what if this man is gay and he says, I praise the Lord who made me, and I'm going to worship him with excellence, and I'm going to inspire other people to worship him through my excellence, and I'm going to love as I love, with integrity and with courage and decency, and I'm going to be manly in that sense, and I'm going to be manly in the sense of pursuing excellence and having integrity and having courage. So is he better or worse than the straight man who goes through 3 wives, cheating on all of them, and who underpays his employees, and who's small and greedy, but it's...
Thank you for this revolutionary piece of information. Guys, just so you know, if you're gay and you don't kill someone, that makes you better than someone who's straight and has killed someone.
If you were creative, a creative person, a creative artist, an artist who is brave and bold and creative the way artists have to be, you could make a superhero who is gay. You could make a different superhero who is gay or black or something else to represent something else.
No, they did that. Jonathan Kent is a different person than Clark Kent.
But if you take Superman, who is meant for a certain thing from a certain time to do a certain thing, and you make him gay or make him something different, you haven't created anything. You've just destroyed something that someone else has created. And you've done it for a mean, small reason to show people that you are better than they are and more open-minded and more tolerant and all the things that the left thinks it is. It's a corrupt, ugly, small, mean thing to do. And to associate that with an American icon like Superman is sick and it's wicked and it's disgusting.
Me when gay Superman?
Disgusting!
People who want the power over reality that allows them to be free in their profits and their gathering power, but it causes us to be trapped inside the metaverse, inside this imaginary world that they control.
Trapped in an imaginary world? What do you mean trapped? You don't have to agree with anything. Just don't be a dick about it. That's all anyone wants. God damn.
One of Chappelle's best jokes in this stand-up was a joke he made about Bruce Jenner, who is now Caitlyn Jenner. This is cut 33.
Caitlyn Jenner, whom I've met, wonderful person. Caitlyn Jenner was voted Woman of the Year. Her first year as a woman. Ain't that something? Beat every bitch in Detroit. She's better than all of you. Never even had a period. Ain't that something?
If that's one of the best jokes in the entire stand-up, then I'm glad that I only watched 10 minutes.
He was doing what a man does. He was protecting women.
From who? This seems to be a new argument in this specific brand of conservatism, and it doesn't make any sense to me. Women don't care if someone self-identifies as a woman. No one gives a shit other than you.
Transgender people are trying to erase women who have natural rights and responsibilities that are different from men's, but they are no doubt still the first part of the reality of their lives.
But why do you care? No woman cares. They have more important things to deal with in their lives than having to deal with what someone else thinks about themselves. This is an unnecessary argument. No one cares. Why do you care so much?
Rachel Levine, this guy who thinks he's a woman, character out of Monty Python, walking around in pearls and this long hat. You know, he's appointed, what is he appointed? A 4-star admiral from the health department or just an entire fantasy. And Jim Banks, a congressman from Indiana, gets suspended from Twitter because he tweeted the title of first female 4-star officer gets taken by a man. And here's the headline from CBS News, right? The CBS, which used to be the standard of great news. Representative Jim Banks suspended from Twitter after misgendering trans health official Dr. Rachel Levine. In the first sentence, the lead is U.S. Representative Jim Banks, a Republican from Indiana, has been suspended from Twitter after using the wrong pronouns in a tweet about Assistant Secretary of Health Dr. Rachel Levine, who is transgender. So
what is wrong with that statement? That's what happened. That's exactly what happened. I mean, I guess you could argue that maybe they should say the right pronouns, that he used the right pronouns if you want to be a dick about it, but like, no, they used the wrong pronouns. That is why they were banned off Twitter.
All through human history, from the beginning of time, from the Garden of Eden to this very moment, men and women have been the central dividing line in human beings, right? It's a universal human truth that every single society on earth distinguishes between men and women and gives men and women different roles in their society. This is universal. Doesn't happen there's no place where it doesn't happen. Sometimes the New York Times will find like some archaeologist who discovers a grave and there's a woman's body in there and there's a sword. And they'll say, see, in that culture, women were the warriors. No, they weren't. In every society, women and men have different roles, and and those are not the way those roles work. So that's true through all of history. There is zero new science to disprove that. There is no new science showing that to be untrue, showing the natural observation of human beings to be untrue.
Maybe your 8th grade biology class won't disprove that, but history will. I mean, in ancient civilizations like the Celtics, Angles, Jutes, and the Saxons, like, women had equal rights to men and also were warriors and stuff. They weren't not allowed to be warriors, so you're just wrong.
They make up a propaganda word, transphobia, and these two morons, Acosta and Stelter, these two knuckleheads, haven't got the simple integrity to say, you know, if all of human history says one thing and there's no new science and they invent a word, maybe we should talk to Jim Banks instead of calling him names. Maybe instead of using, since we're news people, and since we're people who are supposed to give information, maybe we shouldn't use words that are completely devoid of information but are simply slurs. Transphobia is a slur. Jim Banks is not phobic about transgender people. It's a slur used to silence people.
There is so much wrong with this statement. I genuinely don't even know where to start. So, first off, if they aren't allowed to call someone dumb and names because they have to report on the news and all that, you're not any better. You're calling them knuckleheads. That's not being fair either. So, that's one thing. Secondly, transphobia is not a slur. I don't know if you know what a slur is, but here's the actual definition of a slur. Skipping past all this crap, you can clearly see right here that it's a derogatory or insulting term applied to a particular group of people. What group of people are you attacking with the word transphobia? People who are transphobic?
And what's the target? Why do they want to take your body away? Why do they want to take the facts of your body away and pollute your imagination?
Literally no one is doing that, but please, go on.
Because the body is the standard of individuality. It's the base of individuality. It's the origin of individuality. It's when you die alone, and that is what gives you your life, your individual life. The individual gets in the way of the hive mind. The hive mind is what makes Mark Zuckerberg a rich man and Jack Boots Dorsey a rich man. It's what makes guys like George Soros and the people in Davos think that, oh, you know, I can just organize all these people because they're just in a hive. And they make speeches about it. I'm not just accusing them. They even say, we've got to get rid of the idea of the individual. We've got to get rid of the idea of the individual.
Because nothing says more about individuality than being a straight white Christian male. In all seriousness, though, where did you get that quote? Which interview? Please, tell me.
That basically through Labor Department regulations, through OSHA regulations, that any business with over 100 people must now mandate that they get vaccinated. These businesses are supposed to tell their employees what they put in their bodies.
Guys, I'm gonna cry. At school, they make us take the flu shot every year because they don't want the entire school having a flu epidemic. And now workplaces are taking COVID-19 shots because they don't want an entire COVID-19 outbreak in the workplace. What tyranny!
He made this speech, just an incredibly ill-spirited, mean, bullying, maundering speech. This is cut 18, just one quick cut.
This is not about freedom or personal choice. It's about protecting yourself and those around you, the people you work with, the people you care about, the people you love.
Oh yes, this is such a mean-spirited speech. I can't believe it. He's talking about the people I love? That is a fucking trigger word. I can't take this.
So you got that.
Look at this man. Dude is on the verge of tears. One like equals one prayer for Andrew Klavan's soul.
It's not about
freedom, but we're not going to bother Congress with passing a law or anything like that. We're just going to do it with the deep state. We're going to regulate it.
Yeah, it's called an executive order. Presidents can do that. Also, it's not entirely undisputed. If you really wanted to, you could file a Supreme Court case and have it looked at. Balance of power still works here. It's just not permanent, so why would they make it a law?
This is something that Biden said just recently. Just about everybody in his administration said they weren't going to do because it was authoritarian. It wasn't their business. Here's a clip of Biden saying that. This is clip 17.
No, I don't think it should be mandatory. I wouldn't demand to be mandatory, but I would do everything in my power. Just like I don't think masks have to be made mandatory nationwide. I'll do everything in my power as the President of the United States to encourage people to do the right thing, and when they do it, demonstrate that it matters.
I know that this might be a very abstract concept, Klavan, but people can change their minds.
So he's in a panic and trying to make it seem as if he's doing something about a disease which he's not doing anything about.
No, he is. This whole thing is him doing something about COVID. That's what this is, in case you didn't notice. Also, Trump did less. Trump did literally nothing about COVID and then got COVID, supposedly. So, like, what the fuck? So as you can see, his content is not spectacular, and for a man that claims that the left is sensitive and weak for getting triggered over everything, man really seemed to throw a fit when Superboy kissed a fucking dude. Next up, we have the way Andrew Klavan deals with people opposing his side and having debates with him. I don't really have much to say for the lead up to this part, so let's just start rolling the clips, shall we?
If you do disagree with us, we'll try and get you to the front of the line so we can hear from you first, and you can spew your incomprehensible nonsense.
This is fine, but Biden saying that taking vaccines is a matter of national security and health? No, that's too far. That's too mean-spirited.
When black people say to me, you know, the police treat me differently, now, I feel that that's the fault of criminals, not of the police.
No, that is the fault of the police for making that generalization. That doesn't make it okay that they generalized it to be all black people being criminals. That's not okay.
You have also said things like feminism seeks to transform women from first-rate women into second-rate men. The very fact that women wear leggings tells you that's something the female body is meant to attract. Feminism has created this generation of women who think they matter because they're women, who think their ideas matter because they're women. You've also said, whenever women speak to me, I pretend to listen, then I pretend that they make sense. You've also said...
Wait. You threw in a joke there. Hold on. I was with you up until that one.
The fact that these aren't all jokes pains me. That's not to say they would be funny even if they were, but it would be at least a little bit more bearable to believe that he didn't actually think this shit.
You have said, I have no idea what these people are. I have no idea what a queer femme is. And finally, I'm anti-feminist.
Yes, all those things are true, and I said...
Since we're on the topic of fake news and extension, misrepresentation, one-sidedness, unwillingness to expand one's worldview, what feminist philosophers and feminist writers have you read that you believe makes you a proper authority, a knowledgeable authority, to represent and report on something as complicated as feminism?
Well, unfortunately for you, I've actually read everything, so that's not gonna help you.
You physically cannot have read everything about feminism. I bet you don't even know who Mary Wollstonecraft is, pal. You can't even name one example of a feminist writer or book that you've read. Like, what the fuck, dude?
But don't let people tell you that your secret dreams, your deepest dreams, are somehow invalid because they don't serve their political purposes. That is my problem with feminism as a political movement.
That is literally what you've been doing this entire fucking time.
Ideas that came down to us through the centuries, but were best phrased at the founding of our country. The idea that all of us are created equal.
Okay, I know this has nothing to do with anything, but where the fuck is he? Like, he couldn't even go to a college this time, he just went to some fucking random beach.
The right to life among them. The right to be free. The right to pursue happiness. These are great ideas.
Yeah, they really are. Too bad that 2/3 of that list was plagiarized from John Locke, who actually said property instead of pursuit of happiness. I bet you hate that latter one, though.
I think we have to agree that the attacks on men, remember, attacks on men are also attacks on little boys. Okay, when you talk about toxic masculinity, that's somebody's son you're talking about, right? And by the way, there's all kinds of toxic people in the world. Everybody, we're all broken people. We all fall short of the glory of God. So nobody has a lock on being a creep. Okay.
Wow, Klavan, do you know how many sons and daughters you just offended? I can't believe you. So clearly, this man is not good at picking apart an argument or arguing his side well at all. I mean, if you're gonna give Ben Shapiro any credit, which you shouldn't, but if you are, then at least he can make his argument sound believable until further analysis. Klavan can't do that, and that's quite pathetic, actually. Lastly, we have Andrew Klavan on PragerU. I'm sorry, people. If you have to go, just go. Spare yourselves from this torment that awaits if you watch these two. PragerU is the least trustworthy, educational, in the heaviest quotes, resource since the Catholic Church in the 1500s. And with Andrew Klavan in their videos, it can only really get worse. Well, if you're powering through, then I wish you luck. But know that if it gets ugly, you can send me your medical bill and I'll pay for the damages done to you by this video. Without further ado, let's watch.
I am an anti-feminist.
We could tell, hun.
Feminism has attempted to bully us all into accepting an obvious lie. The lie that men and women have the same powers, talents, proclivities, and desires.
Yes, men and women cannot have the same goals, desires, or anything. They biologically cannot. It's impossible. They can't. No.
And that consequently, any discrepancy in their professional paths is due to bigotry.
There is so much wrong with this. Starting with the fact that the female professions, the quote-unquote female professions, are on the bottom of the button, saying that they're lesser than the male professions on top. But also, the professions that apparently no women can have are engineer, lawyer, CEO, and director. But the ones that they can have is nanny, nurse, cook, and secretary. This is horrible.
By shoving that lie down our throats, feminism has made both men and women less happy and less free.
No, I'm pretty sure feminism has made women a lot more free, especially when it comes to suffrage and being able to divorce out of like abusive relationships. You know, this seems a little bit more free than like the 1800s, but what do I know?
Feminism denigrates masculinity in men by relentlessly calling us toxic for our flaws, rather than appreciating our natural qualities of energy, risk-taking, and leadership.
Ah, yes, because energy, risk-taking, and leadership are exclusively male traits. They are not female traits. They are not strengths of a female. It is only for males.
But it also denigrates femininity in women, working to replace most women's commitment to relationship and child-rearing with male obsessions, such as career status and strength. What's the result? Take a look at the quintessential feminist icon, Rosie the Riveter, flexing her muscle. The truth is, any man of the same size and fitness can make a bigger, stronger muscle than Rosie can.
Okay, so I had to let this part play out. Apparently, feminism is taking away women's choice to be forced to have babies. And this whole thing results in Rosie the Riveter, a piece of World War II propaganda. Like, what? And it apparently means that Rosie the Riveter will lose in an arm wrestling match against some random Joe. If you want to hear more about this in a more analytical context, I would definitely recommend Sean's video on this PragerU video specifically. He does very good in it, but this is just stupid.
Now perhaps you'll protest. Isn't feminism simply the idea that women have the same human rights as men? No, it isn't. That philosophy is called classical liberalism.
Both classical liberalism and feminism can think that women have the same rights as men. That idea is not trademarked by any political ideology.
Which holds that we are all equally endowed by God with the inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
No, that's not true. John Locke is the founder of classical liberalism, and he said life, liberty, and property, not the pursuit of happiness. That was a rewrite by Thomas Jefferson, and it's not true. It's not classical liberalism. That is wrong.
But wait, doesn't the Declaration of Independence say that all men are created equal? Yes. Classical liberalism was an idea conceived by and largely for Christian white men. But, like all ideas, good and bad, classical liberalism has evolved over time according to its internal logic, so it now includes all races and both sexes. Good job, Christian white men. Thanks for the great idea.
No, Andrew Klavan, why? No, the white man didn't come up with the idea to spread it to new people. No, they were the ones that said no. All of us Christian white men have equal rights. Everyone else does not. People had to fight over the course of history in order to gain those rights. And the people that worked to gain those rights were primarily not Christian white men. So no, let's not just say thanks Christian white men for this great idea. We can't say that.
As its excuse for the damage it does to our lives, feminism has developed the historical mythology that men have oppressed women and now must be suppressed in their turn to even things out.
But like literally who has ever said that?
Take a look at your Bible. Proverbs 31. The biblical ideal of a good woman is not only strong, kind, and wise, she's also a creative and economic dynamo.
That's not exactly true, Klavan, as the Bible, throughout most of history, has been used to oppress women using the Adam and Eve story arc to say that women have corrupted men.
Whenever left-wing prejudices are confirmed by a single event, that event is treated as representative. But whenever left-wing prejudices are contradicted by a single event, that event is treated as an isolated incident.
Oh, you mean like generalizing how women think? And saying that any woman that isn't feminine is an anomaly and shouldn't be accounted for, and generalizing that? Well, I wonder who's done that before.
A white cop shoots a black suspect. The mainstream media treats that story as representative of general police racism, even though studies show cops don't use deadly force more often on blacks than on white.
What study, Klavan? Are you gonna say it, like, put it on the video or link it in the description? No, you're just not go. Okay.
On the other hand, if a Muslim commits an act of terrorism and someone is bold enough to point out that the terrorist act is in fact representative of the daily acts of Muslim terror around the world, this is considered Islamophobic.
Yes, rightfully so. That is Islamophobic. That is literally what that is. You're taking that small percentage of Muslims that actually do terrorist attacks and saying that all of them do. That's a conflation. That is Islamophobic. Because, I mean, are you afraid of terrorist attacks? I personally am. So if you're saying that a group of people are more likely to do terrorist attacks, that is going to make me more afraid of them if I'm ignorant like you. Are we still alive? Do we still have all of our brain cells intact? Great. Through all these videos, Klavan repeatedly showcases a lack of understanding for the world as a whole, and that's really sad, since he's been here, living on it since its creation. In conclusion, Andrew Klavan is the pinnacle of stupidity in comedy, as according to him, he is a comedian. Nothing hurts more than having to call him that, but it's what he calls himself, so I guess I should, just to be fair. He has garbage takes and is not funny in the slightest, and should honestly be kind enough to step away from a camera and into a retirement home. Alright, that's the last old joke, I promise. Anyway, thank you for the recent support on these videos, guys. I'm only 14 subscribers away from reaching 100, and that'd be pretty sick. Hope it happens. You all have been amazing, and really appreciate you guys. Happy birthday, Jacob, and I'll see you next time.